it's kind of like living life with cheat codes. When you figure out both, when you figure out the mental side and the physical side, and this is kind of why I do what I do. I just want to share it with the world. It's life is so much better. You are so much happier when you're stronger, and it's as simple as that. And if you haven't put the fourth plate on the bar, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And if you disagree and you haven't put the fourth plate on the bar yet,
That's right.
fine, but you're
Yes.
theorizing here. All right, I'm here with David Heon today. David is giving JD a run for his money for the biggest franchise owner. And JD was sure to mention that, by the way, when I mentioned that to him. David is a franchise owner, the owner of Starting Strength Tulsa. He's a member at Starting Strength Oklahoma City. He used to be an online client under Nick Delgadillo. He's a surgeon. He's a big, strong guy. And I'm looking forward to talking to him today. So welcome, David.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I want to arm wrestle JD quite yet, though.
Yeah, and don't get in a scrap with him because he's got that rugby background. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your lifts because you're moving some big numbers. Hit me with your PRs.
PR squat. Really, when I started, my squat sucked. It was my mechanics really were bad. I was pretty sure that Nick was going to fire me before I got my mechanics figured out, but I was really down in the 150 range. And let's see, about a month ago, I did 415.
Hell yeah. Well done.
The press, pretty strong in the press for some reason. 235 in the press, bench press.
Where'd you start on the press, by the way?
Oh, probably 140.
It's a hell of a start.
135, yeah.
Probably took me 6 months to get to 135.
So bench press, I just set a PR in the bench a week ago. It was 320.
Nice. 3 plate club.
Yeah. And deadlift 520.
520-pound deadlift. Awesome. And where did you start on the bench and the deadlift?
Bench was 185. That's an interesting story about the bench. I hit 2 plates once when I was in my 20s, and I hurt my shoulder doing it. I was at a Gold's Gym. I pressed it for 1 rep, and then I was so psyched. I got off the bench, and some big guy comes up. He goes, "You done with this?" And he starts warming up with 225. And I was like, "Yeah, what a letdown that was." But I never in my life would have thought I'd ever get back to that. A 2-plate bench press, let alone a 3-plate bench press.
At what age?
I was 22, probably.
And how old are you now?
Coming up on 60.
Coming up on 60 and deadlifting 520 pounds.
Not bad for a senior citizen, right?
I mean, that sounds nuts, right? I mean, it must sound nuts to your peers. It probably sounds nuts to your patients. Fill me in on this. What is it like? How has it benefited you? Why does this make any sense?
I spent a lot of time in the gym most of my life. I played hockey in high school and swam. Wrestled a bit in high school. Swam in college, and somewhat athletic. But once you get out of college and you're in med school, there's a whole new set of priorities, and these things kind of get shoved aside. And then residency, which is even more intense than the med school. And that's 6 years of slave labor, basically. And then when I started my practice, got back into it a little bit. But recently, when it was about, I say recently, but it's about 4 years ago, had a bit of a scare on a set of random blood tests that showed I was becoming diabetic. And I was in crappy shape. I was probably 290, fat, lazy, when not eating right, scared the crap out of me. So I went on a 2-year journey to try and fix that. A lot of research on nutrition, exercising research, which, as you know, is really difficult to negotiate.
Well, it's mostly bullshit.
But I ended up,
problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. You got to filter that through.
Yeah.
So I lost about 70 pounds of fat, reversed my trend towards diabetes. And I was, and then once we had this rather ridiculous response to COVID, I started building a home gym, and got lucky enough to get a rack before everything got sold out. And I was doing mostly before that P90X, a couple rounds of that, which was intense, but didn't really increase my strength at all. Some CrossFit stuff that, at my age, that just wears you out, wears your joints out. And I know I look like it, but I'm not a great runner. So
I'd be fooled.
So, as I'm going through the CrossFit workouts of the day and trying to pick my way through those that are going to cause the least amount of damage, came across a deadlift ladder, progressive increase in deadlifts. And the deadlift was something I wasn't real overjoyed with. I had ruptured a bicep tendon in my arm doing the deadlift the wrong way, which kind of goes back to, as I was in the gym most of the time, every time I try to get heavy, try to lift heavy, I hurt myself somehow. I was always in awe of the few guys in the corner over there that just lifting superhuman weights, and just couldn't understand. Maybe they're just built different than me. Who knows? So I started to look up the deadlift, because you go on YouTube to find out what to do, right? And came across this 35-minute video on the deadlift. And I said, who the hell can talk for 35 minutes on a deadlift, right? So I'm watching this guy just dissect the deadlift down to, the minutia. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out who this guy is. And so starting strength was, coming up everywhere. And so I looked into him a bit, and he's got a book. Okay, I'll read the book. And he's got another book, Practical Programming. So I started chewing my way through that. These are hard books, by the way. These are not, the mechanics, the mechanical physiology, the anatomy in those books rival basically anything since my med school days.
It's a textbook,
my anatomy text, and it's a tome. Yeah, it's so. Realized that this guy really had this down to a science, and kind of threw all my eggs in that basket, because I couldn't find any holes in the logic. Plus, I liked his attitude. But besides that, he so I didn't really know where to start. Interestingly, I read the program on the bench press. I said, oh shit, I've been doing that wrong. And I kind of read how to do it. I went into my gym and I put 135 on there, and I bench press, and that didn't hurt my shoulder, and went up to 185, and that didn't hurt my shoulder. And I said, okay, so and nobody ever taught me how to lift. It's like, here's the barbells, go, do your stuff. And that's kind of how I hurt myself. So I decided that this material was precious enough and complicated enough that I needed to learn more. So I ended up going to a seminar, a coaching seminar in, I think it was December 2020. And blown away just by not just the mechanics of everything and the way the lifts are done and how it's educated, but the quality of people that he surrounded himself with was, I'd never, it's never seen such a collection of talent before, in terms of, strength training. So got hooked up with Nick and, signed him up as a video coach and started doing these workouts in my gym, and found out that Oklahoma City was opening up one of the franchise gyms later in 2021, and I think it was April. So my wife's watching me increase my strength, just in terms of the numbers. And my wife had an interest in increasing her strength because she has a pretty big family history of osteoporosis. And, her mom's very sarcopenic and frail, and she don't want to be that. And, we've been married long enough that there's no way I was going to train her. So that was obvious. And so found out that when Starting Strength was opening, she was one of the first to sign up in Oklahoma City. And surprised to see that Chase was the head coach. And I thought, wow. So I actually signed up to go out there once a week to supplement my video training, which is huge. And so I get coached by Nick and Chase, and two different flavors of, lifting genius, if you want. But yeah. My wife has made incredible gains. She's 59. She's 5 feet tall. She's about 138 pounds. Oh, sorry, honey. But always fit. Really run anymore. Sick and tired of being, measuring food out every day. Anyway, her lifts just became incredible numbers. For her size, she just deadlifted 200 pounds yesterday. For a near 60-year-old, the 5 foot tall woman, that's, so, and it was interesting to watch. So as the progression came about, I was watching in the Starting Strength gym, the actual how the franchise worked, watching these gyms pop up all over the country. And I said, well, they probably got this figured out by now, how to do this. And I was watching people come into the Oklahoma gym and they could hardly squat down on a box, they're senior citizens like me, but less capable, I guess. And I just watched them transform. It's, unless you've actually seen it and you watch this happen in a gym, in a Starting Strength gym, you really don't. It's hard to explain. But when you give these people this kind of empowerment, where all of a sudden they're squatting with a barbell with plates on it, and they come in every other day. They come in 3 days a week. They don't miss because they're becoming empowered. And quite frankly, that's really what happened to me. I wasn't all worked up about the numbers. It was mostly about getting strong and not hurting myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're 20, you can probably hurt yourself and recover. And when you're 60, that's more of a process. So, um, so doing it safely and getting strong safely, amazing, just an amazing structure that's been developed around this. So if you don't, I think goals are great. You know, I had goals all the time, but couldn't achieve them because I didn't have a system. You know, and I always joke that we all owe Mark Ripito some serious, thanks, because he spent his life ruining his body, figuring out how not to do these things, right?
And getting thrown off horses. That didn't help.
And yeah, he did that. But I wasn't always a surgeon. I used to race motocross, and I was a pilot, and I broke bones and injured myself in other ways outside the gym. But so those are things you got to consider when you're lifting as an older lifter, So
yeah,
that's kind of how that happened. And then watching this happen in Oklahoma City, I said, I spent almost 30 years now as a surgeon helping people. And this was kind of a neat transition, because it's an amazing thing watching how you guys are helping people. And it's just a brilliant system with really, really smart people. Just what you guys have created in your franchise group and in the starting strength community, it's an extremely rare thing to see that kind of talent all helping everybody. It's fabulous.
Yeah, David, the point you make about talent is one that can't be understated, because a company is just a collection of people, and the quality of the products and services that the company produces will 100% be dependent upon the quality of the people involved. And prior to this, I was a tech entrepreneur, and then prior to that, I was an executive at BlackBerry working overseas, and we were growing so fast, I quite literally had an unlimited budget when it came to headcount. I could import a Swede and pay them double what they were making in Sweden to move to Singapore and help me grow the Southeast Asian market. And I tell the franchise team this all the time. You guys are the most talented people I've ever worked with. And you're working for a fraction of what a big company like BlackBerry would pay. And the capability and experience that you have, coupled with the commitment that you have because you're so passionate about what we do, makes us unstoppable. And it's made it so that we could build this franchise company and compete with private equity-backed, venture capital-backed companies and create this thing for a fraction of the cost and execute better, not just in terms of the way things look and the way our system works and our training and our development and support and all this other stuff, but especially in terms of the results that you get inside the gym. But the results you get inside the gym are thanks to Mark Ripito. This company would be nothing had it not been for the work that he created, of course.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We have a brand new anesthesia personnel that just got hired, and he's young. He's out of school. Pretty stout guy, And as I looked at him, he's not your typical soy boy that just came out of school. And one of the long-term anesthetists that's there, pretty strong guy, football player, was talking to him, and he said, you should see what Dr. Heon does in terms of his lifts. And so he got curious, and he started asking, because he's, he was in the gym, and he's probably 5'9", okay, maybe 180 pounds, and he's squatting 350. So he's figured something out on his own, I thought. And he started asking me, and I said, well, actually, I'm opening a gym franchise in Tulsa. It's called Starting Strength. And he looked at me and he goes, is that the same Starting Strength that Blue Book is written about? I can't remember the guy's name, but I said, yeah, Mark Ripito. He goes, that's it. He goes, yeah, I read that a couple of years ago. It really helped me. I said, oh, well, you should visit one of his gyms. So I, that's the other thing is that you're right. It's related to Mark Ripeto's um, genius and the following that he has, because you can build a gym in a city and the brand is very obvious. There's people that know starting strength and you have a built-in market.
Yep. Yeah, this is it dawned on me that this franchise system had to be created. I remember the day I was working at a gym that Grant and I just opened in Orange County, um, and Rip called me. It was a Saturday, and he was all pissed off. He was all pissed off because people were misbehaving on the board. They're just being fools, trolls, and he was saying, I think I'm finally going to charge for access to the board. And he was calling for my opinion because he knew I had a tech background. So I said, well, share your analytics with me just so I can take a look and see what we're dealing with here, and then I'll give you some advice. So I was flattered when he asked me, so I kind of took it on as a consulting project. I took a very close look at his analytics, and I created kind of a consulting style presentation of exactly what I recommend. And when I first logged into Google Analytics, I was like, holy shit, this thing is huge. This is way bigger than I imagined. So the Starting Strength brand current day gets something like 35 million impressions per year online. So 35 million total potential views online across all these channels. And this isn't the result of some slick marketing campaign. This is a result of an engineer, essentially, a scientist, essentially, creating a textbook on the observations he's made over the course of his career, breaking everything down to first principles, and then explaining the biology, the physiology, the physics, the anatomy, and everything in between, to the extent that a guy like you who's been through med school and residency and is a surgeon can read this and go, oh shit, this is correct. And then not only is the theory correct, but the application in practice actually works. So it's incredible.
Because he has that experience too. I mean, he was strength training for years, and quite frankly, knew how to do it wrong every possible way. And that's it goes back to my initial comment. We owe him a huge amount of gratitude for what comes out in that blue book. Yep. There is no other text that I'm aware of, okay, that says that teaches you exactly how to do strength training and how to get stronger. Yep. There's just like I said, I've been in the gym a long time. I played a lot of sports, but there's nobody ever showed me how to do things the right way and get strong safely.
And you are very lucky. You came at the right time, because you and I have very similar backgrounds in that I tried P90X. I had a membership at 24 Hour Fitness. I had personal trainers. I tried everything. I went to CrossFit, and I discovered the book. And I remember when I discovered the book, my home base was in Irvine. So I literally Googled Starting Strength Irvine, thinking that obviously there must be gyms for this thing. This makes too much sense for the not to be gyms. And this was back in 2013. And I was just like, what in the hell? And I saw they had an affiliate program, a couple of gyms here and there. And I was just shocked that no one had brought this thing to the public in an accessible way. And I had to do the program on my own. And I was traveling all over the world and finding gyms and hotels that had barbells and bringing chalk in my carry-on suitcase and doing everything incorrectly because I'd been doing things incorrectly because I didn't have the benefit of a Nick Delgadillo, one of the best coaches in the world, looking at my videos and fixing me up. And even doing it half-assed still radically transformed everything about my life. And just like you, I owe a massive debt of gratitude to Rip, because not only has it helped my health in terms of my day-to-day capability and my ability to participate in my other physical hobbies that, unlike starting strength, are actually bad for me, namely, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. It's now the focus of my entire, professional career. My family's involved. It's how I met my wife. I mean, it's touched every aspect of my life in such a positive way. And I'm just tremendously grateful that we get to sit here and open up these gyms and bring it to more people.
Yeah, I would second that. I've done a lot of things in my life. I did a lot of crazy things, did a lot of adventurous things, but nothing that I've done has changed me more in a 2 or 3 year period than getting under a barbell. I remember when I did 405 pounds for the first time, put 4 plates on and I put that on my back, and I thought, and Chase is standing there, I'm in my rack, and I'm thinking in my head, this is going to pancake me. There is no way I'm going to get this up, right? That's what goes through my mind. And Chase just starts cueing me, okay? Midfoot, ass back, whatever, And I thought, okay, just do the movement pattern the way you've always done it, and it'll either go up or it won't. And you get some physiologic change from it. But the mental change has got to be 4 or 5 times as great as the physiologic change. I mean, it's, you just walk taller. You're not afraid of crap anymore. It's a phenomenal change, really is.
Yeah, facing something that you're not sure you can do, and you're not sure if it's going to hurt you or help you, and then doing it anyways and having it work out well every single time or nearly every single time is a pretty powerful mental process to go through. And it teaches you a bunch of things about yourself, and it teaches you a bunch of things about the other challenges that you face in life. And maybe there's less to be worried about. And that reduction in anxiety and that increase in confidence, the benefit of that cannot be overstated.
Right. And you can, you learn that you can depend on yourself. Yep. To do stuff. Okay, this needs to get done. Well, who better than me to do it? I remember my wife scared to death of barbell training. Okay, scared to death of what she's going to find when she walks into the gym, because she's thinking, oh, there's going to be mirrors everywhere. There's going to be these body buddies running around posing, hitting on all the women. And she walks into the gym and there's no mirrors. There's just racks and barbells. Okay, and she's like, I could probably do this, and connects immediately with Chase. So it's funny. Her weights are going up, right? And she gets sick. She gets the flu. The flu's still around, by the way.
Oh, is it? I thought it was gone.
Yeah. No, it's still there. Yeah. So she's out for a week. She didn't train for a week. She comes back and Chase deloads her, and she's looking at the weight. She's, Chase, I did much more than this before. Why am I only doing 145 pound squats? He's like, Francesca, you haven't been in here in a week. Okay, we need to start lower but I can do more than this. Okay, it's an amazing transformation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And she still gets trepidatious when she's looking at what he programmed for the next day.
Me too, man.
He's like, yeah, it's so do I.
Yeah.
So, but it's really life incarnate, because you're looking at strength training, and as you go up, if you would have told me a year and a half ago that I would have squatted 415 pounds, I would have said, you're insane.
Right.
Okay. But when I squatted the 415, it was much harder to do than the first time I squatted 315, or much harder to do than when I did 2 plates for the first time. Mm-hmm. So it gets progressively harder. The higher up you go, the rarer the air is as you go higher, the harder it is, and the more you have to commit to it. Mm-hmm. And so it's, it's life, man. It's the higher up you go on that ladder, the more responsibility you have, and the more you have to depend on yourself, and the more guts you have to have. You have to have enough balls to do that.
Responsibility is the key word. I've noticed a theme in my life. As I've aged, I've taken on more responsibility. As I take on more responsibility, I have more stress. As I'm exposed to more stress, I either recover and respond to that stress in a productive and constructive way or not. And it is
And if
just
you,
like strength training.
yeah, and if you don't go higher.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
How high you go in any ladder that you're measuring in your life depends on how much responsibility you are willing to shoulder. And that's how strength training just mirrors, life in general.
And that is exactly why I wanted to talk to you today on the podcast, because you are the guy that grabs life by the balls, and you want to peak out physically and you want to peak out intellectually. And I don't know what things were like when you were growing up, because we're not in the same generation, but when I was growing up, the weight room and the athletic stuff and the physique, that was all for the jocks. And then as the 21st century, as we got into the 21st century, I started to see a convergence where all the information became available on the internet, and the nerds started doing research, and the nerds started figuring out fitness. And now you've got guys like my brother, who's, one of a world-renowned network architect, like a total nerd engineer, and he's a big, strong, muscular dude, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like living life with cheat codes. When you figure out both, when you figure out the mental side and the physical side, and this is kind of why I do what I do. I just want to share it with the world. It's life is so much better. You are so much happier when you're stronger, and it's as simple as that. And if you haven't put the fourth plate on the bar, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And if you disagree and you haven't put the fourth plate on the bar yet,
that's right.
Fine, but you're theorizing here. So do that first, and then let's have a conversation about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If you're not, if you haven't done it, don't theorize about it. And that's an interesting thing, because I think, Rip gets a lot of crap in the academic circles, and I would guess the reason is they're embarrassed. Okay, totally embarrassed of this guy that sat down and wrote out the stuff that they should already have known. They should have been teaching. They're stuck in their little esoteric, funnel, and can't see the forest for the trees. And, I learned long ago that most critics are just confused admirers. So.
Yeah, man. It's a 24-year-old kid in a research department at a university with a 14-inch neck writing about strength training is an absurdity. It's an absolute absurdity. One of the things that's been amazing to have been exposed to Rip's style of thinking is that once you understand everything that's involved with starting strength, you realize that the rest of the industry and pop culture's understanding of health and fitness is complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And then when you start,
even at best, it's pieces. And it doesn't, some pieces don't necessarily apply to everyone. Okay. So, but starting strength, the blue book applies to every single person. It doesn't matter what your genetic capabilities are. It doesn't matter what you've done before. We got guys with, there's a coach with a amputated leg, right? There's coaches that are never thought they would be doing this stuff, okay, that are killing it. And I always joke that I had Nick and Chase to coach me, but every starting strength coach I've met, okay, is like Ripito light. Okay, they're coaching the movement patterns exactly the way Ripito wants it coached.
Yep.
Okay, or they're called out.
That's right.
And so that's the linchpin of this whole process. And once I learned that, and you learn that you get a starting strength coach, someone that's actually certified starting strength coach, you can be pretty confident they know how to make people learn the movement patterns, yep, regardless of who walks in. Your 85-year-old grandmother or your 15-year-old 14-inch neck kid that wants to get stronger. Yep. There's different mechanisms, but what's written in the blue book applies to all of them, and that's a phenomenal accomplishment. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's not just the fact that all of this was observed, dissected, analyzed, documented, and communicated clearly. It's not just that. And it happens to work. It's not just that. It's that it was then turned into a system of how to teach others to do that. And then in
Yeah,
addition to that, it was then turned into a mechanism to determine whether or not these people could do it at the right level of quality. And then in addition to that, it was not allowing that quality standard to drop. So
yes,
I've never seen anything like it, and I've been around business a long time. And it's when someone has a discovery or an invention or any kind of intellectual property in a particular domain that is just so far and away better than anything else in its category, and it happens to be one of the most basic fundamental aspects of living a healthy, productive life. It's almost dumbfounding, right? Because it's 2022. How
yeah,
could how could these insights have been gleaned this late into the development of the species, and then to have it surrounded by this entire organization and all this content and this massive online community? It is. I legitimately have never seen anything like it. Which, back to my earlier point about looking at the demand created, it's all organic. Guys like you discovering the book, looking at the website, finding a coach. And that's why we have 35 million impressions a year. And that's why when I looked at the analytics at city by city, I'm looking at Dallas, for example. I'm like, holy shit, 55,000 hits to the website every year in Dallas. And I know about online conversion. I used to be a tech entrepreneur. And so what percentage of those people will we need to convert to make a gym viable? And what do the numbers look like? And I was doing the math, and I'm just like, this is an absolute no-brainer. And the holy grail in business is fulfilling the demand that's already there. And we can roll up in these cities, open a gym. People know about starting strength, they know about RIP, and just like you, they sign up and change everything about their existence.
Yeah, if that number of people in Dallas, okay, knew, all of them knew that there's a starting strength gym or two or three or four, you would have riots on your hand, because they're like, why is there only three gyms?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're all full. I'm on a waiting list. That's horseshit. Why can't you build more?
Yeah.
So, that's the next step is converting the most number of people that are out there.
By the way,
buckets.
Dallas is
For example,
so if you're watching this from DFW, go visit Plano, because Plano still has room.
yeah, well, so yeah, because just to bring back the guy I just talked about, the anesthetist I just that just started at our hospital. He knew Started Shrink, and I said, "Didn't you live out in Moore?" He said, "Yeah, I lived out there for 4 years." I said, "There's a gym right there on Western." He goes, "You're kidding." So, that's the next great tweak, if we can figure that out, how to get the most number of people to actually know there's a gym here,
right?
That you can go and get trained in.
It's still a secret.
Yeah,
we still have people in these cities where gyms have been open for years that are fans that don't know the gyms exist, which is why I'm grateful for franchise owners like you, because your secret to success has been find a model and follow the damn model. Exactly. Right.
Exactly.
And that's what you've done with the franchise, because I told you that we're going after the Whole Foods demographic, right? They care about health and fitness. They've got some extra money to spend. Whole Foods puts their markets in places that have a high density of people that fit these criteria. They can afford the price that we charge for membership. You put your gym in a damn Whole Foods parking lot.
Yeah, I may have taken you too literally, I guess.
No, that's exactly what I wanted. and your sign is visible, because, man, if you're getting 30,000 cars a day passing by your sign, that's a whole hell of a lot more than we can do by putting a banner up on the website. And
we have we just signed the lease, Monday. Haven't started any construction yet, have no signs up yet, and I have 50 people on a site that they've clicked on the Starting Strength Tulsa site and are now on an email list. There's 50 people, so and we haven't even started gym's not there yet.
Right.
So
Yep.
they know it's
Speaking of which,
coming. And
did I get you? Did anyone send you a list of people that requested a gym in Tulsa before your website was up?
you mentioned it to me when we had our conversation.
Okay. Remind me after this
About
call because we can give you that list too, and then your email list will be even bigger, and then you can open up with more members, hit cash flow positive that much sooner, and then
yeah,
hopefully move on to gym number two.
you're holding back on me, man. What have you been doing with your time, dude?
It's not too late. Your construction hasn't started yet. Don't worry.
Yeah, I was just joking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's cool. That's great.
What were do you remember your numbers? I wanted to talk to you about your pre-diabetic situation. What was your, glucose
Well,
and
so
A1C?
yeah, so our hospital does a thing on Doctor's Day where we go and we can get lab work done. And so 2016, 17, something like that. I go and get my blood work done and it's normal. I'm probably 40, 50 pounds overweight. Talking fat weight, because now I talk about weight differently.
Yep.
And the next year I get tested and my fasting blood sugar is 179. That was 12-hour fast.
Wow.
Freaked me out.
Yeah.
Immediately went and got my A1C tested. It was 7.2. I'm like, holy shit, I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
So I'm really lucky in some regards because I just had a random blood test done. And it showed me this. The average time period for a person once they become diabetic to know that they're diabetic is over 8 years. And the reasoning is because it doesn't hurt, doesn't cause any issues other than weight gain and look around you, everyone's fat. And you only start noticing it when you start having end organ damage. Start damaging your kidneys, you start damaging your liver, and things. Your body's ability to compensate is getting overwhelmed. So that's what started my process. And so I did a combination of, like I said, P90X stuff, and I was doing intermittent fasting. I started doing actually prolonged fasting. And actually preserved a fair amount of lean body mass by doing that and lost 70 pounds over a 2-year period, which is not easy when you're in your late 50s.
No.
And I was
hyper, right?
Right. I was hyper focused.
Yeah.
And so I got my A1C down to 5.1. I reversed my diabetes. And then, that's an interesting subject. I don't know how far you want to go down this rabbit hole, but as I started strength training, I was very fat adapted. Okay, I had eliminated basically carbohydrates for the most part from my diet. Certainly sugar, very few carbs, and most of them were complex carbs. And this is all, I don't want to get into, the labels that people put on it, carnivore diets or keto diets. And none of that matters at all because every single person is different. Okay. And so you can't put them under this umbrella of, do this diet, do that diet. And diets, they don't work. You have to have lifestyle changes, basically. So as I started strength training, I was very fat adapted. I was burning fat mostly. And I got away with that for a long time as my numbers went up. And I was putting on muscle mass and not fat weight. A little bit, but not my percent body fat was going down.
Sure.
Okay. So
you can gain fat and lose body fat percentage, which people need to understand the math on that.
Yeah, that's a very important point. So, but you get to a point in strength training that you will overwhelm your skeletal muscles' ability to burn fat. It's like I equate it to a fat being like the diesel engine. It'll go for a long time. But if you need to run up a hill really fast, you need a dragster.
Yep.
So the sugar, not necessarily sugar, but carbohydrates are important to supplement that system. So it's not only that I had to figure out what my body needed to become healthy and strong, I had to figure it out again. So your body physiology changes. And so it took a lot of effort for me to figure out what I needed, when I needed it, how to eat, and reverse my diabetes. And I've put on, I think, roughly 38 to 40 pounds of lean body mass in a year and a half, 2-year period.
Unbelievable.
And I did it because I listened to Nick once I figured out he was smarter than me. And
he's unassuming, but that's true for me too.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience. Yes, it is. Protein intake, being careful with my carbohydrates because that's my physiology, and some people just fatten easily with those. Yep. Healthy fats, living a healthy life. But I'm cutting out. I cut out all the cardio crap and just did strength training. Just did what Nick told me to do, and figured out my diet. And I think I shared with you earlier that the Dexa scan between a 7-month Dexa scan, the most recent one, I gained in 7 months 26 pounds of lean body mass, which is not all muscle mass. It's bone density, it's ligaments, tendons, solid organs, whatever. But lean body, 26 pounds of lean body mass and 4 pounds of fat. So yeah, my percent body fat went down. It's lower now than when I lost my 70 pounds of fat.
No shit.
And I started out at 220 pounds.
So you're at around 260, is that right?
272.
272. At what height?
6'1".
And what's your body fat percentage roughly?
About 28%.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine telling your peers in the medical community this, right? That you're 6'1", 270 plus, and strong as an ox and healthy, having reverse type 2 diabetes, not having to be in ketosis, eating carbohydrates, completely changed your health situation. And the cool thing about your story is you went to all three, you kind of tested all three scenarios, where standard American situation, fat, eating like shit, sedentary, feeling terrible, and then lo and behold, diabetes. And then the second is, okay, what do you do in that situation? Standard American solution. Well, you diet, maybe go into ketosis, do a whole bunch of cardio, and you were very diligent about that, and you change your medical situation, which is awesome. But then you had the balls, because this is where things get real tricky, where people go, I'm afraid of weight gain. I don't want to gain any weight. And you're smart enough to make the distinction between muscle gain and fat gain. And you went through the process of putting on dozens of pounds of lean body mass, improving your metabolic situation, improving your insulin situation. And here you are.
There you go. So if you look at it you stratify it. The number one thing you can do, diet is always the number one thing for people that are diabetic, or people that don't know they're diabetic and are insulin resistant. You look at 30% of the population is diabetic. Okay, well, I would submit to you that probably 60 to 80% of the people are insulin resistant. I don't know that number for sure, but that's kind of what I'm seeing in my little esoteric practice. But so I got off track. But basically, I could have done it much easier by strength training at the beginning, because the cardio tore me up. Yes, I needed to control my carbohydrate intake, but I probably didn't need to go that extreme. And the number two in the strategy, in the stratification, is putting on as much lean body mass as you can, because your lean body mass is not insulin resistant. it fights insulin resistance. And when you talk about that, it's a global term, but it has to do with different tissues in your body. So your skeletal muscle, when you strength train, is the least insulin resistant organ in your body. So the more lean body mass you can put on your frame, the less insulin resistance you are at risk for.
And in addition to that, it's quite hungry for fuel, which is carbohydrates.
Exactly.
So it's a big sponge hanging out in your skeleton that soaks up the extra sugar running through your blood, essentially.
Exactly. And it's hungry for both sugar and carbohydrates for sure, and fat, because that you burn fat when you strength train.
That's right.
So
and when you're sitting on your ass, because your basal metabolic rate is higher, because you're a less efficient biological machine, because lean body mass is inefficient. It requires energy, and that means you can enjoy yourself a little bit. And actually, I wanted to ask you about that, because I want to hear about your diet, because you had, from what it sounds like, the standard American diet, and I'm assuming you eat the way I do, and I enjoy the hell out of my food, and I'm not restricting calories, and I get to be normal and not diet and limit myself and all this other stuff. I have to eat within reason, obviously, but I can eat a giant steak and a plate of veggies and feel good about it.
Yeah, you don't want to be gluttonous, but so my wife will be cooking burger. How many burgers you want? 3. How many eggs you want this morning? 5.
Yep.
Because I'm freaking hungry, because I just lifted the tonnage I just lifted was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so you have to listen to your body. Now, you don't want to, you're hungry, you don't want to sit down and eat a bag of potato chips. That's not going to work for you.
Not at 59.
You're right. And some people, and like I said, it's different for everyone. Yep. Okay. You can't just have a rubber stamp diet and that's what really irritated me when I had to figure this out. I've been through medical school and residency. You'd think that I would know nutrition really well.
I would not. No.
They're
we know better.
They're 30 years. They're 30 years behind. I
how dare you with those egg yolks? You're going to get heart disease, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah. So I still have orthopedic surgeons that I know personally, and they're like, you shouldn't be lifting like you're going to hurt your knees. You're going to hurt your back. I said, well, this particular orthopedic surgeon lives with chronic back pain and knee pain. And I said, that what's really interesting is that once I started doing this, my knee pain and my back pain went away.
David,
so, I mean, you think about that, I've gained 57 pounds. Okay. And my knee pain and back pain went away.
Yeah.
So
now you have scaffolding supporting your joints.
Yeah. And I don't need to tell, by the way, the people I work with that I've put on this much body mass, healthy body mass. It's very obvious.
They see you walk in the door and they think you're different. They think that just must be the way you were born.
There's always that excuse.
I had to get adjusted to being a big guy. People calling me a big guy. My whole life, I was a skinny little buggy whip, and now I'm the big guy. But of course, everyone thinks that this is my genetic makeup. No, this is something you can earn. This is something you can go after. David, I have to ask you, man, quick sidetrack. What the hell do we need to do to get your peers in the medical community to stop answering questions that they don't know the answer to? What is with that? I mean, and by the way, surgeons are probably my favorite sect of the medical community. It tends to be the brighter, more conscientious, more engineering minded type. But man, the goddamn GPs are infuriatingly unable to distinguish between what they know and what they think they know.
Yeah. Who's going to be watching this podcast?
Everybody. At least 300 people.
So, my dad was a GP. My dad was a general practitioner, but it was a different world. He did everything. He took tonsils out. He delivered babies. He did C-sections. It was really general practice.
Yeah.
Today, they divided that into family practice, internal medicine, pediatrics. My dad did all of that stuff as a general practitioner. And he, he didn't have any problem saying, yeah, I don't know, but I'll look it up. But yeah, how the hell do I know how to, deal with that? I mean, all you have to do is look at how the medical community lost its collective mind from a cold virus.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to minimize it. People died from this virus,
Sure.
and it. But look at the demographics, but I think the politics of the whole thing and the way the medical community, just embraced all the political crap made everything worse. The reason, I would suspect the reason that you talked about surgeons being somewhat different than the GPs is that every single thing that I learned in residency and med school was evidence-based medicine. You do this because this works and this doesn't work. So don't do that. And if someone finds something that works better, then let's do that. Okay. So it's not, I don't roll dice and figure out how to take someone's gallbladder out. Okay. I know exactly how to take one out. And that doesn't mean that every single person is built the same. But there are fundamentals that you have to apply if you want the best scientific output. And that's exactly why the Blue Book spoke to me. Because it's not, there's not one bit of politics in that entire book. I read the first sentence in that book. Strength is the most important thing in life, and that's true whether you want it to be or not. And I stopped and I thought, well, that's a really interesting statement. Do I agree with that or not?
Right.
And to this day, I've found not one single disadvantage to being strong.
No one has ever lost from being too strong is one of my favorite quotes. Yeah. Even if you're playing the game of life. It's an interesting situation, and evidence-based has kind of taken a turn for the worse because the journals are corrupt and the people doing research are corrupt. And it's,
well, I don't know about corrupt. I think they're biased and they get paid the wrong way.
Right. The incentives are wrong.
The incentives are wrong.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, this system, why am I building a starting strength gym? Because the incentives are right. Okay. If you're able to get somebody healthier, get someone stronger, and it works, as Ripto quotes, every single time it's tried, and you're able to reproduce that, why would you not?
Yep.
When you got somebody standing there and they're coaching every single rep you do, how can you not get stronger?
Yep.
It's
if they understand the model and the model works, that's the simple arithmetic, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me about your practice, by the way, David. What type of surgeon are you?
I'm a general surgeon. I've been it's mostly abdominal surgery, hernias, lumps and bumps, most internal digestive organs. I don't do orthopedics, which is bones, and I don't do cardiothoracic, which is stuff in the chest. So general surgery is kind of a hodgepodge of most of the other stuff. So we see a fair number of different organ systems and disease processes with that. Pretty busy practice, but I guess it wasn't busy enough because I wanted to add some extra stuff in there, like building a gym.
Yep.
So, but it, keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble. So, you mentioned that surgeons are a little different than everyone else, and I think that's true. Because everything you do, the success you have and the failures you have, they're all on you. You did this. did you do it right? Did you do the best you could? It's a huge weight to have every single day that you're practicing. Um, Most of the time when you're operating, you're millimeters away from really hurting someone
Or killing them.
And killing them.
Yeah.
So you have to be um, continuously educated,
Yeah.
evidence-based, and competent. Okay. I mean, you can go meet a surgeon who's the nicest guy in the world, but if he can't tie his shoes very well, you might as well take the bastard down the hall who's, grumpy old guy, but um, he knows how to operate.
I know better than to judge a surgeon based on their bedside manner, because the
Yeah.
surgeons that I've met are typically pretty gruff and typically pretty blunt. I care about
Yeah.
their success rate and the steadiness of their hand and their knowledge base. And your practice can actually be evidence based, because if you're a GP seeing patients for 5 minutes at a time, writing a prescription and never hearing back one way or the other, you don't really get the evidence that we get in the gym when you come in 3 days a week and we can see whether or not you're getting bigger and stronger, or the evidence you get in your practice where did the person survive or not? Okay, cool.
Right.
They've survived. That's step one. Step two, did you improve their situation or not? And you get that feedback loop, and that feedback loop is missing from the broader medical community. I think that is a big part of the problem.
I think it is. I'd be careful with stereotypes there because I know some really great um, GPs, family practice guys. They're really smart guys.
And by the way, just to
yeah,
clarify, whenever I talk in generalities, I'm talking about themes, and I'm certainly not shitting on all GPs.
Right.
There are some brilliant, phenomenal GPs out there, of course.
Right. I wasn't accusing you, but I know some really brilliant general practitioners. I could never do that job. I couldn't. They had the amount of politics and crap that they have to fight uphill all the time to do the right thing.
Yeah,
is a nightmare, and you don't get, and the reimbursement is screwed up.
Yep.
Okay, so if you want to see 50 people a day, and give them 2 pills and a bill, that you'll get paid more than doing the right thing.
that's right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there are multiple things to balance. There's not just how much should I help this patient. There's how much should I help this patient. Am I able to do the things that I want to do within the confines of the system that I'm in? And am I able to do the things that I want to do within the confines of liability exposure? So you're constantly balancing these three things, and those three things are very often at odds. And very, very commonly, I see people put, avoiding liability exposure above what's best for the patient. And I think we saw that in its true form en masse over the past couple of years, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that so one piece of advice I would give people: don't go to your family practice doctor to talk about nutrition. Okay, nutrition is your responsibility. All right, and there's enough information out there, and you are your own experimental lab petri dish. Okay, you can figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and don't worry about the the people that take this particular stand as dogma, or they're ideological about one particular facet of dieting, because all too often the general practitioners will see people that have abused their body for 60 years, and then they come in the office and say, "Fix me."
Yep.
That doesn't work. So there are things you need to go to the doctor for. Okay. I'm not sure getting your nutritional advice is one of them, because there's enough information out there.
And the training's not there. It's not their domain of expertise.
That's true. So, and to your point, they may feel uncomfortable telling you, I can't really give you dietary advice, or if you have a cardiologist that's worried that your cholesterol is 238. I just had a lipid panel done. My cholesterol is 238, but my triglycerides are down the bottom. And so that's a great dynamic. My HDL is off the chart. So you have to understand the lab values, and I think a good GP can do that. But it's your responsibility to find a good GP. Okay, don't just assume what you take your car to a mechanic and he's telling you a story that you find squirrely. Well, don't trust that mechanic. Get another opinion.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the thing that I think people are missing, is that the healthcare is really their responsibility.
Yep.
Now, from a surgical standpoint, there's some things they can't control, and they get a surgical disease that needs to be treated surgically. Yeah, you can't do that. And you do have to trust the GP that you trust to send you to a surgeon. Nobody looks up surgeons in the yellow pages. So they're sent to them by primary care physicians. So yeah, shop around and don't just assume that that this guy's a good fit for you or this woman's a good fit for you, depending on what they're telling you, or if they're saying things that don't make sense to you, get another opinion, and find someone that you trust. But ultimately, your healthcare is your responsibility.
That's right.
Just like paying your electric bill is your responsibility. So call an electrician to pay your electric bill. So.
And the appeal to authority logical fallacy is quite a dangerous one if it has to do with your well-being and potentially life and death. So just like you said, the title tells you nothing about the person's capability. You've got to do your homework, and you have to treat medical professionals like consultants, not like decision makers. Do not outsource your decision making to a medical professional. You are responsible.
That's right.
You're the one that has to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, when I was raising my children, and I think I'm still raising them when they're in their mid-20s, but when I was raising them, I always taught them, don't believe anything anyone tells you, including me, okay? Unless you can, you have your own brain, figure it out. And, to circle back, I have my own brain. And when I read Starting Strength, I was like, big light bulb went on over my head. And I said that this is what I got to do.
Yep.
I wish I was 30 and I could do it when I was 30, but time is time.
That facet of your personality, I believe, explains why you are where you are in life. And we're fortunate to have you, man, and you're not the only surgeon, by the way. We've got Andrew Mueller over in Texas who's trying to build 20 gyms with Brent Carter. And this appeals to people that think the way that you do and operate the way that you do. And when I first spoke to you and heard the referral from Nick, I was like, well, the guy's thoughtful. He's successful. He obviously knows how to work his ass off. And most importantly, he doesn't know better. He knows that when a program exists that's logical and verifiable, follow the program and it will work. And I cannot stress the importance of that trait when it comes to being a strength trainee and also a franchisee. So I think you're going to do very well for yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. You guys made a perfect wheel so far. So
I hope so.
And you keep tweaking it, which is really cool.
Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not shy.
Yeah.
So,
well, David, I enjoyed that conversation very much. Thanks for the time today.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Talk soon. See ya.